The old cliche, you walk the walk, talk the talk. Chuck did both.
I did a flying sidekick through the front windshield of a car. In 1978, that was kind of a big deal.
If he says, don't cross that line, then just don't cross that line. Because he's so precise.
I did about 23 movies before I wound up doing the series.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
I thought if it could go, 3 years, it'd really be great. They were expecting it to go over 8.
CBS was very anxious to get Walker back in the saddle, as the cliche goes.
Barbara said to me the other day, Walker, Texas Ranger is coming back on.
I have some big fight scenes to do with some incredible Korean martial artists, and the action should be pretty hot and heavy. I've been offered series before, Walker, but I really didn't want to pursue a career in a TV series when I got the offer for the Walker series, and they sent me the synopsis of what the series would be about. I started thinking about it. I said, if I would ever decide to do a series, this is the kind of series I would like to do. Well, I'll be danged.
Walker, Texas Ranger was an instant hit on America's Saturday night lineup. Chuck Norris played Cordell Walker, a modern-day cowboy as fast with his fists as he was on the draw.
The Walker character is such a classic Western hero from when I was growing up. Classic Western and classic American hero.
He is the Western, the great American hero. That's the highly distilled essence of what Chuck Norris is. He's the good guy. He's the guy that'll never walk away from a threat. He's the guy who will always do the right thing at the end.
Well, there's a lot of Chuck Norris in Cordell Walker.
Well, he is Cordell Walker. I mean, that's the one thing about Walker and Chuck. They're very similar human beings.
Chuck and his team of Texas Rangers beat the bad guys from 1993 till 2000.
In fact, CBS wanted to go another 2 years on the series, and I probably would have considered that, except that my wife was pregnant with our twins at that particular time, toward the end of the 8th season, and I knew that I couldn't do a series and take care of my wife during her pregnancy, so I knew it was time to call an end to it.
Texas Rangers.
Chuck Norris, in one world, has never gone away because he's all over television. It's all over the world, and people are always fascinated. And it becomes one of those television iconic shows that everybody misses. Where's Walker? What's Chuck doing? And time went by that we felt we've given enough of a pause that it would be great if Walker came back.
About a year ago, we started talking about doing a Walker movie of the week, and we started trying to develop a storyline. I think we came up with a real good story and developed it into a screenplay, and here we are, shooting it.
CBS was very anxious to get Walker back in the saddle, as the cliche goes.
Finally. Give me one example. I know what my fan base is and all the fan letters that I get. It's like everybody's begging, when is Walker coming back? When is Walker coming back? And I don't care if it's children or grandparents and everybody in between. They have been begging for this for since we shut down. I think they're going to be really, really, really happy.
We have Cherie Wilson, of course, who plays Alex, is back.
It's been so great walking in. It's like old home week.
And Judson Mills, who plays Gage, is back.
Yeah, it's good to be back down here. It's good to be back down here. Thanks, Chuck.
Clarence Gilliard, who plays Trevette, is back.
It becomes your family. And for the 8.5 to 9 years that we were on the show, we developed And it trickles down from Chuck. Quite a family environment.
And then we have two new actors, Janine Turner.
I am the new kid on the block. My character brings in the whole crime scene investigation aspects to the show, and that's new. So I'll be out there with my gloves and checking the dead bodies and doing my DNA test on the scenes.
Am I officially a Texas Ranger?
And then Andre, a young actor,
Youngster on the team now.
is playing Red Harper, who is the one being arrested for a couple murders.
Harper, how does it feel to be arrested for murder in front of all your Ranger buddies?
No comment, okay?
It's about an aerospace company in Dallas who is building an updated guidance mechanism for our military. And they finally accomplish their project, give it to the Pentagon, and one of the executives of the company makes a duplicate for Kim Jong-il in North Korea. Kim Jong-il has sent 3 of his top assassins to Dallas to oversee the project. And of course, that's where Walker comes in, and all the action of the movie of the week gets involved.
Guys, quiet, please. Come on. So don't step into the kick, be careful.
And fun, young action, like young kids and dirt bikes and lots of chases and stuff beyond the Koreans and the martial arts that supersede pretty much any of the fight scenes that we've had in a long time.
I expect this Walker to be new. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be urban.
They want to add a kind of a sophistication to the look and to some of the scenes.
Chop him in the stomach. And then elbow him in the face and just let him fly out. Yeah, let go and just go like.
They're going to have everything that they expect from Walker.
Very nice,
A much kind of more, it's a little hipper, it's a little newer, and it's a little more now.
Walker fans are going to love this show because at the end of the day, the qualities that brought Chuck to television, that brought him to early motion pictures, is a man that you can depend on, who's going to get the bad guys, who's going to stand up for what's right.
And cut.
Remember those punches?
I was like, oh no, he's gonna hit me.
The first day is always a little bit scary, but it feels like I just came right back and started shooting the next day. It's incredible. Code of the West is integrity, loyalty, and friendship. That's what the westerns of the 50s entailed. You know, the Gene Autry's, the Roy Rogers, and you know, all those western actors of that era, you know, portrayed that. And me growing up basically without a father, they became my surrogate fathers.
Don't even think of it now. Don't do that.
Chuck's own father spent long stretches away from the family home in Oklahoma, where his mother Wilma was left alone to support her children.
We were very poor. I did all kinds of jobs to feed my children. The kid's dad, he wasn't home a lot of the times.
Born Carlos Ray Norris in 1940, Chuck was the oldest of 3 boys.
Carlos was a very gentle, very quiet boy, was very shy. In fact, they used to say they didn't think he was ever going to come out from behind my right leg because he was so shy.
In 1956, Chuck's parents divorced and he became the man of the house.
Carlos had such a good relationship with his brothers. He was like a father figure in a lot of ways.
Whelan was 3.5 years younger than me. Aaron is 11 years younger than me.
I would come home from work sometime, and he would be rocking Aaron to sleep. He was always right there for Whelan, made sure Whelan was in the house at 6 o'clock in the evening. He always made sure that they were in bed.
Growing up in poverty, and Mom was on welfare for over 10 years, but she never let any of that affect her in a negative way. She always kept a very positive image about life, saying that we may be poor, but we're rich in love.
I did waitress work. I did a lot of different kinds of work because we were so poor. But it's so funny because we had a good life even then, even though we were so poor, that we had a close life.
Poverty, being rich, I think what really counts is we always knew what love was.
We were very close and very loving, and we had each other. We had each other and we had a lot of love. And this is all I ask.
And I've always remembered that. And she's always said that and always kept a positive attitude about life. And that kind of carried off in me, too. And I think that was some of the success of my life, has always kept a positive attitude about whatever it was I was pursuing. When I joined the military out of high school, I was in boot camp. One of my friends was Hispanic. One day he just said, "You know what Carlos means in English?" I said, "Charles." He said, "Yeah, and the nickname for Charles is Chuck. So I'm going to call you Chuck." I said, "Oh, whatever." And he started calling me Chuck. Well, and then everyone else started calling me Chuck. And so I just kind of kept that name, Chuck. And then when I got into acting, it was Chuck Norris. Carlos Norris is a little harder to say than Chuck Norris. And, I answer to both. My goal at that time was to be a police officer. So I joined the military police and the Air Force, and I was sent to Korea. And that's when I got my first exposure to the martial arts. And now this is 1960, so it was a long time ago. So I became fascinated with the Taekwondo system, or they called it Tongsudo then. And so I started training in it and made my black belt. Plus I studied judo on the weekends, and so I got my brown belt in judo. And after I was discharged, I went to work in an aircraft factory. And I wasn't making enough money to support my family. I was married and had a baby at that time. So I started teaching this martial arts in my mom's backyard.
He went to work for Northrop Aircraft in the daytime. He taught karate in our backyard at night with floodlights in the back. Everybody was down on it because they didn't know what karate was all about, but he was determined. He had determination.
We put up this kicking bag, and we used to fly and jump, and I remember jumping and kicking that bag, and people would look over the fence, and pretty soon we had 20 people looking over the fence. So my brother came with the idea of maybe making some money.
I fell in love with teaching and decided to pursue that as a career.
That's when he took off with his first karate studio, a small one that we all went down and worked on to get it going. I was proud of him. I was proud that he had made up his mind what he really wanted to do and had the determination to go ahead when a lot of people was against it. He tried to get cousins and everything to take karate so they could learn the karate and help him in his school, but Whelan was the one that stood by.
Whelan became one of my first black belts, and he taught for me in my karate schools. We were extremely close. In 1970, Whelan joined the Army and was sent to Vietnam. And he was there 4 months, and he was killed in action there.
He had the courage that it took. He saved a lot of his men, by his courage. And there's a long story to it. And in combat, he was a hero. He had the heart. And if you knew my brother Whelan, you'd understand. The type of guy who would, fall on a sword for people.
When Carlos found out that Whelan was killed, I guess he just went to pieces. It was devastating to him, just like it was to us all, but they were so close.
And that was probably the toughest thing I've ever encountered in my life, was his death.
All right, so let's just rehearse this and see what happens naturally with him getting up. We have his bags here.
Rehearsal. Background.
And action.
This particular scene is me coming to the open range bar and grill to take Trevette to the airport because he's leaving for Quantico to do a training session with FBI agents.
Clarence overacted on that one.
He hasn't changed in 4 years.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'm not very much in this episode, but they wanted to make sure that the Walker family was there. So they designed the scene to tell the audience where Jimmy is while all of these wonderful things are happening in this 2-hour movie.
Brutally hot right now. It's really hot and it's over 100 degrees. It makes it a little bit difficult filming.
It's a great day to be in black.
Yeah, I know. I love black on the 100-degree days.
It's the sweat alert.
That's a bad face to see the wardrobe girl make.
Guys, cameras up, please.
Okay, here we go. And
Background.
The first day you're on set, it's a new character and you're always finding your ground, but everybody has been so lovely and so helpful.
Background. Action, Mo.
I feel very at ease being here.
Are you ready?
yeah.
Hey, this is a big venue. We get playback.
My motivation to become a competitor was to hopefully win some local tournaments and get a write-up in the local karate magazine and hopefully get students that way. Never envisioning me becoming a world champion. That's how goals are. You set realistic goals that you think you can accomplish. And once I won the LA Open, then my goal increased to the state, and then from the state to the national, then from the national to the international, and then to the world title.
It just got where I just felt every tournament he went to, he was going to win.
But if I'd have thought at that time when I was first started competing that my goal was to be a world champion, I would have never followed through.
Chuck won the World Karate Championship title 6 times in a row and retired from competition undefeated in 1974.
Hard work and discipline, those are 2 attributes that he brought to it. He never did anything halfway.
It was amazing when he became world champion 6 times in a row. Very amazing.
Chuck Norris is still one of the most popular and influential names in karate.
When he was granted the honor of Grand Master, the only Westerner to get that honor, that, to me, said something, about how the martial arts world embraces Chuck Norris.
Even the legendary Bruce Lee took notice of Chuck.
When I won the world title in New York City in 1968, Bruce was there. So we got acquainted and decided to work out together back in LA, and which we did for a couple of years. And then he left for Hong Kong to pursue a movie career. And I didn't hear from him for a couple of years, and finally out of the blue he calls me up. He says, I want to do a movie now with a fight scene that everyone will remember. And the fight scene will be in the Colosseum in Rome, like 2 gladiators fighting to the death. And he said, I'd like for you to be my opponent. At that particular time, I had no ambition to be an actor, but I thought it'd be fun to go up there and do this.
Bruce had a charisma on screen that I don't think anybody can match, and I mean, it was meant to be, those 2 being on screen together.
Bruce and I kind of ad-libbed the fight scene because we knew each other so well. So he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'll throw this, this, and this, and this. He said, okay, I'll do this, this, and this. And he said, I'm not going to dominate this fight like I did all my other fights in my previous movies.
It was a classic fight scene, even for it stands up in time.
Kiddingly, I said, well, Bruce, who wins? And he said, I win. I'm the star of this movie. Every year, I have a black belt convention in Las Vegas.
Everybody will step in.
Where all my black belts come in from all over the world.
Well,
I mean, it might be hard.
Right, absolutely. Staging of
So you got to stay. I would stay in the 27 feet area. I was trying to think of a name for our system, because Taekwondo is predominantly kicking. Well, our system is a mixture of hands and feet, but also blending jiu-jitsu, judo, a lot of different martial arts into our system. Chung Kuk Do means universal way. And I said, well, that's going to be our new system. Chung Kuk Do, and that's the name that we use today. I tell you, our Chung Kuk Do team gives one of the best demonstrations in the United States. What's what's amazing about the martial arts today is the youngsters and just how incredibly good they are today.
The Grand Master of Chunkuto, our founder, Mr. Chuck Norris.
We have a week of seminars and finishing off with a gala. Now with the presentations, we give out awards to our black belts, and the final award is the Whelan Norris Award, which we give to a black belt who we feel has really dedicated their lives to not only the martial arts, but to our country and to people in general. It's really an honor to present the Whelan Norris Award.
It's something really funny and wonderful. They keep Whelan with them all the time. They tell me about times that they're out somewhere and they start laughing about what Whelan would have said, because Whelan was our comedian, about what Whelan would have said if he'd have been there with them.
He's the type of guy who would talk to anyone and had the personality more than Chuck and I both put together.
And they laugh because they're imagining Whelan is there with them, saying the things that they know he would say.
Good job, Dick. Thank you.
Stunt stuff is the exciting part of doing a show like this here. Being able to do my own stunt driving is exciting.
Cut.
I'm not sure what all my scenes are about today. Truthfully, I don't even know until I get called.
Okay, guys, nice and quiet, please.
Okay, settle. And action.
Aaron's directed about 7 of my movies. He was my co-executive producer on the Walker series. And so we've worked together for many years.
My brother and I, we seem to think alike, so we work well together.
They have a way of communicating and blocking scenes out because nobody can do it better than them.
Aaron has always been the director, and it's just, they really take care of each other, and they truly enjoy working together.
When I know he's shooting that day, it's always a lot of fun because he and I have a good time. We think alike, enjoy being around each other. We're very close.
I want him rested because there'll be days where he'll be putting in 16 hours. So
Aaron's one of my best friends. I don't think we've really had a crossword with each other in all the years that we've worked together. He has a hot temper, but I'm his older brother. I'm 11 years older than him, so he doesn't direct that hot temper toward me.
Just come down and right to a nice tight shot of his face. That'd be the end of the scene. Cool.
When we started the show, there was a backlash because of the karate and their take on the amount of violence that Walker was responsible for compared to other shows.
Freeze! And they came out with like Violence Against America, and Walker was the most violent show on TV. And yet, as television evolved, as what was happening in the world, the one show that really prevailed because it had a core of virtue and integrity and honesty was Walker, Texas Ranger.
It was a family-oriented show. It had the action that the dads would sit down and watch, but not to the point where the kids could watch it. And then the relationship with Walker and Alex and all the other characters, I think, brought the women in to view it as well. And I think that's why Walker had the longevity that it had.
Walker, Texas Ranger originally ran from 1993 to 2000. Before establishing himself on television, Chuck had actually been a big-screen action hero for 20 years, but making the transition from karate star to film star was not so easy.
How I got into films in the first place is that I had 3 karate schools, and a company came to me and said, Chuck, if you'll sell these schools to us, we'll open up a chain of Chuck Norris karate schools nationwide, and you'll have 1,000 karate schools. And I thought, well, 2% of 1,000 schools is better than 100% of 3 schools. So I sold my schools. In 2 years, we were bankrupt. Lost my schools, and so I started teaching private lessons, and Steve McQueen being one of my students. And he said, well, what are you going to do now that you no longer have karate schools? And I said, I'm not really sure yet. And he said, well, have you ever thought about the acting field? And I kind of laughed, but he said, I would encourage you to give it a try. Now, I'm teaching private lessons, but I'm just barely supporting my family at this stage. And I thought, boy, now here I'm 32 at that time, 33. And I thought, man, I don't know. I thought, I'll check out the karate, the acting schools and see what it costs. So I start checking them out, and it's like $600 a month, I thought, golly, I don't have that money. And I'll never forget, I went out for an audition for a part in a movie, and there's like 100 actors there trying out for this part. And a lot of them I recognized, I go, golly, I know him. I saw him on so-and-so and so-and-so. And I'm thinking about going up and getting their autograph, And I said, this is not going to work. So I wound up writing my own screenplay called Good Guys Wear Black. I started peddling that around Hollywood for 4 years. And finally, I found a production group that was willing to gamble on me. And I did a flying sidekick through the front windshield of a car. In 1978, that was kind of a big deal. Critics hated it, to say the least. They said I should get back in my karate school and start teaching again.
In those days, four-walling, where you go rent your own theaters, also wasn't, that was how we had to do it, because no one would buy our movie. So I would go and sit in a hotel room, and our movie would play in certain theaters that we had rented, and then all the money would come back to my hotel room, and we'd count it up and distribute it. And yeah, it was pretty fun days.
Good Guys Wear Black cost $1 million to make. We wound up being very successful. It did about $28 million gross domestically, and I wound up doing Force of One, where I played a world champion kickboxer, and then I did Octagon, which was the first ninja movie, and on and on. Using my martial arts in my films to help make them successful, my movies successful. And I was very fortunate to be one of the few to be able to do that.
Chuck was able to blend great character with exciting action. And because he was the real guy who didn't use the stuntmen, who did his own work, all of a sudden he became this big star that showed, I think, Hollywood, that there's a need and an excitement and a passion for it.
The discipline and the absolute mastery of the martial arts, it's like watching, as you know, a beautiful ballet or a dance sometime. It's wild, it's fun, it's physical.
Chuck Norris could block out any one of the scenes he did, action scenes, because he has done them over and over again.
And then Chuck organically created the fight to fit that real environment, and then you would capture that on film. And I think that's what made those fights very unique and also real. So you as a viewer, when you're watching it, you say, oh my God, if I'm in that situation, this is what's going to really happen.
If he says, don't cross that line because he's got, a fist or his foot coming into frame, then just don't cross that line. Stay way back, farther back of your mark, because he's so precise.
Chuck Norris in Walker, Texas Ranger is a hero because he's fighting the bad guys, which is obvious, but he has compassion and a sense of humanity.
Much like his character who helps and protects those in need, Chuck Norris dedicates a lot of his time to charitable efforts.
He cares about children, does a lot of charitable work. Really, that's what makes a hero. Giving of your time and of yourself to help for the good of others. Nothing beats that.
When I did Walker, we probably had 500 Make-A-Wish children come on the set during that 8 years.
He's been granting wishes for almost more than 20 years and does an exceptional job. He's gracious, he's warm, he's welcoming, The kids love him and respond to him.
To see their eyes, they had the most positive attitudes, and we can all learn a lot from these young people. I've become very close to many of them.
I will honor this all my life. It will be a special part of me all my life.
He's a proud American. He wants to kick drugs out of America. He goes into the inner city schools and he teaches karate to put kids in a program so they're not, joining gangs, that they belong to a family.
Kickstart's a program. Being a martial art teacher for many years, I worked with thousands of young people, and I was able to help them in many areas of their lives, whether it's psychologically or mentally or physically. So I saw just how important the martial arts, what it did for me. Turned my whole life around. It raised my self-esteem and instilled the discipline and respect that I really needed in my life. And so I knew that the martial arts worked, the philosophy of it. When I got into the acting field, in the back of my mind, I said, I would like to help kids whose parents don't have the money to pay to go to a commercialized school. And so finally, I was having lunch with former President Bush at the White House when he was president in 1989.
Chuck Norris is a good friend, a man I have great respect for.
He just kind of out of the blue asked me, do I have any future goals outside the entertainment field? And I said, so I started telling him what I would like to try to teach the martial arts in the inner city schools.
Well, I just remember his telling me about the concept and asking what I thought, and because of his reputation and my respect for him, it sounded like it made a lot of sense.
I could reach a lot of these at-risk kids at that stage and teach the martial arts in the school as part of the program, as part of the PE program. I said, I think we could help literally millions of kids and direct them in a positive way of life rather than a negative way of life.
I'm very, very proud of each and every one of you. And some of you have been going to high school. We hope that you will stay connected with the Kickstart program. We hope that you will still train after school and be a part of our Kickstart program.
When we first envisioned this program, when he first did, I wasn't sure how widespread it would be and how successful it would be. But it has exceeded what I thought was possible, and it's going strong.
37 schools, middle schools in our program, 5,000 kids in the program. We've graduated over 35,000 over the last 12 years, and many of these kids going on to college and becoming successful in their own right. In fact, 6 of them have graduated from college and come back and now are teaching in our program. So it's been really incredibly successful.
With visions of youth karate programs in schools across the United States, Chuck is putting together a professional kickboxing league with the intent of using the profits to fund the Kickstart Foundation.
Well, I've formed a World Combat League, which is a kickboxing league. And it's going to be pretty exciting because they're not going to be fighting rounds. They have to go in there and fight for 1 3-minute round. So they've got to go full throttle and make a statement in that 3 minutes. I think it's going to be an exciting league, and my foundation, Kickstart, will be the official charity of this league. Right now, I want to saturate Texas with this program in every middle school in Texas, and then expand it out to all the states throughout the country.
I saw firsthand how committed he is to young people living good, clean lives. And I think it's because of what people see as his commitment to young people and his leadership.
In the 1980s, Chuck Norris and his wife Diana divorced. They'd been married for 30 years, since he was 18 years old, and had 3 grown-up children. His 2 sons, Eric and Mike, had also joined the Walker family, directing many episodes of the series. Despite the success he'd found, having no one to share it with left him empty.
My best friend just realized I I had a hole in my heart. I really did. I was living a very fast-paced life and not really a constructive life. I mean, even though I was successful in the film world and financially successful and all this stuff here, he still saw an emptiness in my heart. And he said, you know, that emptiness is because you don't have a soulmate to share it with. And I kind of hem on, I don't need that, you know. He said, well, there's a girl I know, a woman I know, that I'd love for you to meet her. I said, okay, kind of throwing it away. But anyway, one night I'm at a sushi restaurant with a lot of my friends and some of my family, and this woman walks in.
I was really nervous when I came in that night, and I didn't really know what to expect. But I thought, who is that over there? Who is this guy at the end of the table with the baseball cap? He's pretty cute.
I look up at her, and it's like an angel standing there. I said, holy mackerel, you know. And I was just kind of staring at her for a moment, and I said, oh, it's nice to meet you, Gina.
You know what? Oddly enough, I'm from a little town in the High Sierras of 2,000 people. I worked in law enforcement, raising kids, working all the time, so I didn't really watch a lot of TV. But I think really not knowing was an advantage for the two of us. I know it seems kind of hard to believe, but I got to see him as a person, a guy that just gets up and goes to work every day like every other man. And so I didn't have all that celebrity stigma or whatever attached to him. I got to see him for who he was.
A couple days later, she's doing a modeling assignment, which is she was modeling wedding dresses. So I go to watch her model these wedding dresses here in Dallas.
It was a good time in his life to find a soulmate and settle down. It took a long time to find a person that he can be that madly in love with.
So I told my mom about her, about Gina. I called my mom and told her about this gal that really, says she's a really beautiful person, not only physically but in her heart too. So I told her about the wedding dresses. Is that bringing up any ideas? I said, no, Mom, no ideas. Famous last words. Because, truthfully, I was not looking to get married. Because I'd dated a lot of girls, and all of them I dated, I had no aspirations of getting married at all. When Gina came into my life as a beautiful young lady, it'd be a nice relationship, but I didn't foresee it as a marriage type of relationship.
Really? Now let's talk about that.
Well, I didn't until I found the interview. When I found the interview, then that made it a little more important to me. I was doing Walker and working 16 hours a day. I said, the only break I have on Walker is Thanksgiving. I have 4 days off at Thanksgiving, and that's 6 weeks from now. And I said, that's the only time I have, for us to get married. And I said,
yeah, you're like, can you do it?
And I said, can you do it in 6 weeks? She says, well, I haven't said yes yet. I said, oh. I said, honey, would you marry me?
Yeah, I said yes. And
she said yes. I said, well, okay, you got 6 weeks.
Oh, no pressure. And we did. It was a beautiful wedding.
But I tell you, she did an incredible job. In 6 weeks, she put this whole thing together. We had over 500 guests.
Make some noise for Mr. and Mrs. Carlos and Jeannie Norris.
Although both Chuck and Gina had grown-up children from their previous marriages, they began talking about starting a new family together.
We decided to start a second family, and when Gina got pregnant, we go for the first sonogram, and the doctor goes, oh yeah, there's that little tyke. And she goes, uh-oh, looks like there's another one here. And I go, wow, twins, really? And she says, yep. And then she goes, oh, to the left, she says, uh-oh, looks like there's a third one. Now I have to sit down. I says, 3, really?
It's like it's all him. Like he's the one carrying him, like he's all lightheaded and has to sit down.
I says, is it really 3? And she says, well, we don't know. Well, we'll know for a week. So for a week, I'm trying to think, okay, now 3. Now how do you hold 3 in your arms, And but of course, it wound up being twins.
I said, wow, I'm almost done with mine. Mine are getting ready to move out. It's got more energy than I got.
Well, we're going to take the kids to see the rodeo.
Oh, it's the first time ever.
Here we go.
Get your hat? Okay, I'll get your hat. There's your hat. You put it on. And Mom.
That's going to be exciting.
Chuck, did you see that picture of the president back here when I had him out here before he was president? Looked like he was choking that horse. He was
Here we go. Here we go.
Well, these are my people here, you know, the Texans and, the Southwest. These are the people I identify with.
One day back, I ain't never forgot it. How you been?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Just moved back to Dallas a couple months ago, so we've settled in. We're back here to stay now.
That's where you need to stay.
We will.
He's earned the respect of these people because of his own life and overcoming adversity, and also because of his excellence in his field.
He is a very famous personality around the world, and Chuck Norris is no fluke. He's for real.
Thank you.
I've never had any hostile type fan reaction, and it's great when they come up and see how much they appreciate you, and how much they love you, and it's a great feeling.
It's not like he's just an actor or movie star. He's an international icon, and he's a hero to so many people.
Hi there, how are you?
It separates him. It gives him just a different quality because he's the real deal, and he's our hero at home as well.